In Florida, it is now illegal to have an abortion after 6 weeks. The new law coming into effect today. It replaces an old law which did allow abortions up to 15 weeks. Pro-choice campaigners say this near total ban will put women's health at risk, pointing to cases involving pregnancy complications. In states like Texas, this new law could be undone, though, as soon as November, because there will be a vote that all Floridians will be allowed to cast their ballots on. This is known as Amendment 4, which could in fact reverse all of this and protect a woman's right to choose up to 24 weeks. Comes, of course, as we're seeing these similar fights pro and against in many states, including in the state of Arizona. Let's bring in Dr. Deshawn Taylor, an abortion rights activist, gynecologist, CEO of the Desert Star Institute for Family Planning. She is in Phoenix, Arizona today. And Dr. Taylor, thank you for taking some time for us in Canada here.
Thanks for having me.
Your thoughts on Florida?
We have been in our abortion providing community deeply disturbed by what is happening in Florida. Florida was essentially the last bastion of access to abortion care for people living in our southern states. And so this is a very significant blow to abortion access in that region of the country that was already decimated after Roe v. Wade was overturned in the summer of 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. Florida, huge state as well. The 6 week ban, what do you think that will mean? What will the impact be on women in that state, Dr. Taylor?
Banning abortion at any point is unacceptable, right? But having a ban as early as 6 weeks essentially takes abortion as an option for pregnant people off of the table. Uh, you hear people say a lot that people don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. I would say a more accurate assessment is that people may have noticed that a period is missed, but by 6 weeks, you don't have people really thinking through the process of how they feel or what they would do about being pregnant. So that is the concern about having bans so early in pregnancy, is that around that time, that is when people are realizing they're pregnant and starting to decide what that means to them.
Yeah, and we know there will be a vote that Floridians will be allowed to weigh in on in November, but of course that is still, May, June, July, August, September. I mean, that's 6 months away, give or take. And we're not even sure how that may play out. Although opinion polls do suggest, Dr. Taylor, that a majority of people in Florida are in favor of, kind of a lot more latitude when it comes to a woman's right to choose than certainly this law would indicate.
What we are now learning is, one, it depends on how you ask the question, right? I think at the end of the day, most Americans do not want legislators involved in someone's decision around what they will do with their pregnancy. And so overwhelmingly, when you bring the question to the public, then that is the response you're going to get. People have very conflicting feelings about abortion in general. And honestly, whether someone thinks they would have one themselves isn't relevant to the discussion of the fact that we don't want the government to be restricting people's access to abortion.
Hey, what about in your state, Dr. Taylor? I know you're probably right on the front lines in Arizona. We know that Democrats in your state are trying one last push to repeal, what is effectively a near total ban on abortion in Arizona as well. So, it's playing out in a lot of different states, and there are big political implications too, aren't there?
Absolutely. I believe that our Senate is supposed to be voting today on whether to repeal the 1864 ban on abortion that was written when Arizona wasn't even a state. And so we are hopeful that we do have a legislative solution. However, the process of legislation would be that we would still have the ban enforced for several months before we would be able to have what our current 15-week gestational ban restored. There is a ballot initiative for November, and there are enough signatures, so there is expectation that that will be successful. And so worst case scenario for Arizona is that then abortion would be restored after that ballot initiative passes. However, I do want to remind people that it does not restore abortion to more than 15 weeks. What it does is it restores what the current status quo is, which is right now Arizona has been functioning under a 15-week ban since the beginning of 2023.
Hey, one last question. I mean, you're following this very closely in your state, in Florida, and other states. For an audience up here in Canada, I mean, what is going on in the U.S. when it comes to this issue? Why are we seeing these kind of rollbacks going on? And where do you see this? Where do you see this ending up?
This is extremely frustrating, but I want Canadians to know this has been a long game. Like this has been, we have been in a collision course with this since Roe v. Wade decision in 1973. And I think that some complacency in thinking that, we wouldn't have a Supreme Court that would ever overturn a right or to take us backwards. And so I think we're all waking up to the fact that we have to be actively engaged and involved in our civic processes, that we cannot take for granted that the folks who are elected into office will always make decisions in our best interest. Like we have to, as the people, make our voices heard and understood, and honestly get rid of these people at the ballot box in November. Like we have to show up and we have to vote for our rights, and we cannot anymore sit on the sidelines and believe that our vote doesn't matter and that we can just trust politicians to do the right thing.
Dr. Deshawn Taylor joining me from Phoenix, Arizona. She's a gynecologist, reproductive rights advocate, as well as the CEO of the Desert Star Institute for Family Planning. Wonderful to have you part of our coverage today. Dr. Taylor, thank you for this today.
Thank you.